Hey, what's up guys? It's Cypher. Fortnite has had a lot of LTMs since it's been a game, but I'm going to create a tier list of the best and worst LTMs to ever come to Fortnite, and a lot of you might not even remember most of these LTMs, so let me know if you watch to the end and you know every single one that I'm about to list. To start us off, we're going to have the original Avengers LTM. You can turn into Thanos himself, and it was the first time they did a huge collaboration, so it was honestly an S tier LTM. Being able to transform into Thanos, probably the most memorable LTM until today. Next up, we have the rehashed, redone version of the Marvel LTM. And honestly, it was a bit of a letdown because this one wasn't as impressive, although we did get to play with a lot of cool different mythic abilities and Marvel weapons and Marvel gadgets. I would say I'll put it in the B+ category. All right, next up we have Horde Rush. You might not remember this one. It was early on. I guess this was Epic's take at trying to incorporate some save the world elements, save the world PvE mode into a BR LTM. I don't really remember playing it that much, and if I recall correctly, it wasn't the most exciting or enjoyable mode. We'll put that in the D category. Speaking of save the world, Storm King was a PvE LTM that they added, and it was like a challenge to beat the Storm King. I ended up doing it solo, and it was a squads mode, and I actually really enjoyed this one. As somebody who really enjoys only PvP elements, I actually had a really good time playing this mode. It was pretty fun. I'm gonna put it in the B category. Next up, we have 50 versus 50. When Epic dropped this, people went crazy. The idea of two teams of 50 fighting it out, and it was BR. It wasn't Team Rumble where you revived. If you died in the 50 versus 50 mode, you only had one life, and sometimes some crazy things would go down. Me and Dakota's used to intentionally hide until most of our team was eliminated, and then we would try to do like 2 versus 30 or 2 versus 40. 50 versus 50 was definitely a top-notch mode, and honestly deserves to be in the S tier category. Next up, we have Blitz. Blitz is like the fast-paced version of Battle Royale. There's been different versions of Blitz, but every time they add it, I gotta get a few games in because Blitz is actually a very fun way to play Fortnite. Blitz is definitely in the A category. Next up, we have the Lachlan Pickaxe Frenzy LTM. This was a very cool take on a tournament for Lachlan's Icon Series skin to unlock it early. I had a great time playing this with Avery and Hogman. We had a lot of fun, ended up doing extremely well on unlocking the skin early as well. I think the Lachlan Pickaxe Frenzy was an A LTM. Next up, we have the Shockwave Knockout mode. This was a very, very cool LTM where the more damage that you took, the further you got, pushed away when you got hit. I had a really good time playing this one. It was extremely fun and super intense and exciting, and the tournament bracket format they had was also really cool. They should definitely bring this one back. This one, because of creativity and uniqueness to the Fortnite world, is going to be an S+ LTM. Next up, we have Marvel Knockout. Marvel Knockout, they've had a few handful of tournaments for this one to unlock some of the skins. It was a fun LTM overall. I think it could use some improvements to make it more competitive and more exciting. Overall, pretty good though. I'll give it a B. Air Royale, this one is hit or miss depending on, the iteration that we're talking about. It's a very unique LTM, but it's not the most exciting, and it doesn't have as much intense, cool moments. I think Air Royale is not bad, but not great. I'll put it in the C category. Next up, we have Tank Battle. This one is a very unique approach to normal matches, except they removed the shields and heals. The only way to heal yourself is to damage other players, and damage is actually reduced. That's why it's called Tank Battle, but all the players are very tanky. It creates for a unique fighting experience. Overall, pretty fun LTM. I'll put it in the B category. The John Wick LTM. This was the first time they gave us like the Bounty Hunter LTM and one of the early OG collaboration LTMs. This one is definitely an A+. All right, next up we have Disco Domination. This one was interesting. You have to dance your way to victory. It was all about 2 teams or 3 teams, and you had to like capture the point. Very, very silly, but it was kind of ridiculous and fun at the same time. But overall, I'll say it's still in the C category because you are just dancing to capture some points. Unvaulted. Unvaulted is a classic one because of the fact that it really brings back old Fortnite in the current Fortnite. You're able to go back and play with things like the flint knock, infantry rifles, just some of the most classic, awesome weapons. This one is going to be in the A category. Super nostalgic. I always play Unvaulted whenever it's in the LTM rotation. Teams of 20 was also an interesting take. It created a very cool mid to end game where each team kind of builds their own base, but didn't really live up to the 50 versus 50 hype. Overall, it's a B because it doesn't quite capture the intensity and awesomeness of the 50 versus 50 modes. The Siphon mode. This one could be an S tier LTM if they just did it properly. However, it's not true Siphon because you're only siphoning heals when you eliminate players. There's also no shields. I'd say it's in the B category. Another LTM that is so close to being great but just falls a little bit short is the Sword LTM. I recently played the Sword LTM for a video. The problem I found with the Sword LTM is, one, people who are using weapons were way more effective than the guys with the swords. It feels like every time you use a sword, someone just shoots you down with a scar from range and you end up losing. The Sword LTM is going to be in the C category. All right, Steady Storm. This one, the storm is slowly closing the entire time, and you actually know where the storm is going to end from the very beginning, so you can plan like a huge base around the storm. It doesn't change too much about how the game is played, and for that, it's just going to be a D LTM. Rags to Riches. This one is great. It rewards players for getting eliminations. You're able to only upgrade your weapons by eliminating other players, so you start off with all gray weapons, and as you get eliminations, a random weapon is upgraded. This is a very cool LTM. Rewards aggressive players who get eliminations, and it's always a good time to play it. This one is an A+ LTM. Bare Bones. This is like a challenge mode LTM that a lot of YouTubers have done without the LTM. I believe they removed the HUD so you can't see your health and like materials and whatnot. You basically just see the core Fortnite for what it is. I'm gonna be honest with you, doing this as a challenge is fun because you're going against other players who have the HUD, but as an LTM, it didn't really feel that crazy. I would probably say it's just a D LTM. Solid Gold. This one's a favorite for a lot of people who love legendary weapons. All the weapons are legendary. This one is a solid LTM. I'd say this one is a solid B for the rating. High Explosives is also another unique one. It's just all explosives, all explosive weapons, a big spam fest with very limited materials available. I would say the high explosive mode is going to be in the D category. The Slide LTM was interesting. This one is basically you have frozen feet the whole time, so you're constantly sliding everywhere, and you have this crazy mobility option. It was an interesting mode, honestly, and I think they only brought it a couple of times, but it was fun playing it while it was in the game. But it wasn't anything too crazy. I would say the Slide LTM is going to be in the C category. Fog of War / Sneaky Silencers. This one is where the fog is intensified and all the weapons are silenced weapons, and you also mark your opponents when you tag them. This one is very unique, very interesting. It's always fun playing this one because you're able to outplay and outmaneuver your opponents in very unique ways that you're not usually able to. Overall, it feels like a true unique LTM. I would say it's in the B category. Catch LTM kind of falls in the same category as High Explosives. It's all throwables. You got stickies, you got impulse nades, shockwaves, normal nades, but everything you just, you throw it at people. It is pretty much a spam fest with stink nades as well. I'm not a huge fan of High Explosives. I would say Catch is kind of in the same category as High Explosive. We'll put it in the D category. Close Encounters. This is one of the OG LTMs where it's like basically only shotguns. You've got a jetpack. There's a lot of sky bases that are built in this LTM because you can't really shoot people down from a distance. I would say this one creates a very unique playing experience and is overall fun whenever it's in the rotation. I would say Close Encounters is a B tier rating. Sniper Shootout. I've seen some crazy clips from Sniper Shootout. A lot of people love going for trick shots in this one. I'm a fan of those clips. I'm a fan of playing it when it's available, and it is one of the OG LTMs. Sniper Shootout, in my opinion, especially for the people who like to play snipers, is going to be an A tier LTM. Ground Game is also another one that was early on and they put it in the game. Basically, Ground Game, you ended up you can only carry like 30 wood, brick, and metal. So it was very, very limited building. And I think Epic was actually thinking about using this as like a testing round for nerfing building. And if you haven't guessed it, it did not play well with minimal builds. And this one's going to be the first one that I rate in F tier because it was just awful to play without builds in Fortnite. Floor is Lava. I remember playing the original Floor is Lava and it was a good time. But when they brought it back with the Gref G tournament, they improved it tremendously. It was a lot cooler. The mode and everything about it, the weapons, the fishing for the rifts, shockwaves, all that stuff was extremely cool to see. And the fact that it was in a tournament mode, we had like end game with 20-30 people rotating and moving circle with lava on the ground. It was a super epic moment. And I think the Floors Lava LTM has got to be an S+ tier category. Food Fight is also one of the original OG LTMs, and it was kind of like a 50 versus 50 mode between Tomato Head and Durburger. Honestly, it was a pretty noob friendly mode, and you know, they had a bunch of turrets and stuff. I wasn't a fan of it personally. I'm just gonna put Food Fight in the D category. Some people might be upset about that one. The Getaway mode was very interesting. It was when they brought those vaults, and it was like a race to try to rush, steal the crown, make it to the bus, and get away without getting shot out. It was a very unique mode, and for that, I'm going to rate it an A+. Heavy Metal was another OG mode that released pretty early on in Chapter 1, and this one was basically a lot of heavy weapons. Like you had the heavy shotgun, and a few other different like heavy weapons like the Deagle as well. It was cool, but it wasn't that memorable. I would just say it's probably in the D or C category. I'll put it in the C just because I don't remember it that well. Scooria was another LTM where they tried to change things up. You ended up collecting coins, and if you had the most coins, you were marked on the map. But Scooria just didn't really live up to the hype, and for that, it's probably going to be in the F category. The Mandalorian LTM recently got added, and I had a good time playing it, but it was pretty frustrating at times because before you knew it, somebody had a lot of points and they ended up killing the person in second place, and you know, the match was over. The John Wick one was definitely better than the Mandalorian one in my opinion, but the Mandalorian one wasn't completely awful. I will say the John Wick one, we rated it as an A tier. Mandalorian one, we'll put it in the B tier. Arsenal is basically gun game, and I actually really enjoy playing Arsenal. It's always really fun. For every elimination, you end up going to another weapon until you make it all the way until you have to pickaxe somebody for the win. And I think it's pretty unique and pretty fun to play. Overall, it's an A tier LTM. Next up, we have the spy games. I personally did not play this one too much, but what I'm hearing is it was kind of like the Marvel Knockout, but with special weapons that had special effects. You guys might have enjoyed it. So I'm just gonna, you know, since I don't know this one too much, I'm just gonna put it in the middle, put it in the C category, and you guys let me know, you know, if you actually liked spy games or not. Next, we have strategic structures. This one was very interesting because you had a lot of wood, but very limited amount of brick and metal, and the brick and metal that you can place down actually had a lot of health. So you have to be very strategic about where you place the brick and metal. And if you haven't already guessed, that doesn't sound too exciting. Let's just put that one in the D category because I don't even remember playing it. Soaring solos. This one is when they were testing out glider redeploy for the first time. So I wasn't a big fan of when glider redeploy was in the game. Just I feel like it made mobility too easy and people were building like crazy without fear of ever falling to their death. I'm soaring. Just put that in the D category. The green only LTM. This one was for St. Patrick's Day. It was basically just green weapons, everything that was green, med kits, whatever. Nothing too crazy though. I'll put that one in the D category as well. Wild West. This one is all like Western themed weapons. I wasn't a fan of the 6-shooter, to be honest with you. This one's also going to be in the D category. Leave None Behind was a very unique LTM. I'm surprised they haven't brought it back. Basically, what happened is if all your team was alive, you would have like a constant slurp effect where you were constantly being healed. But if somebody was knocked, they were immune to damage, but your entire team would be slowly taking like poison damage over time until you guys all got knocked. Very interesting. I don't remember playing it too much, but hopefully they do bring it back so we can try it again. I'll put this one in the C category. But let me know what you guys think about the LTMs that we've rated. We've had some pretty good ones and some pretty bad ones. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.